Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am Ross Marasso with my returning guest, Kaitlyn Andrews, International Life Coach for Women, and you can find her at theartofwomanliness.com. Kaitlyn, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, Ross. I am very excited to be here today.
It's always good to talk to you. You know, I was looking on your website and I noticed this thing called the 7-Day Love Yourself Challenge. What's that all about?
Yes. So it's a free challenge and it's to basically get you back on track. It's to help your progress, put some little special strategies into your life. The first day is learning how to lead your life. The second day has different issues that you may be facing, like getting energy. The third day is about personal habits. The fourth day is about success in planning and learning how to get your life kind of squared away so you can really maximize that time that you have every day. And also plan for relaxing, organizing. And I walk you through because decluttering is actually half the battle, as well as intentionally building your space so that you can function and thrive in a way that's actually going to support your life. And then up-leveling your energy with different tactics and strategies that I have to build personal energy as well as celebration energy and how to really love your life. And then the last day is something really special, and I'm not going to tell you what it is so that you can go look it up.
Okay. So 6 of 7. And they can just go to your website, theartofwomanliness.com, to go ahead and sign up. That's all they got to do.
Yes, it's free. It's entirely free, and it's built to help get you back on track and to love your life.
You know, you made you turned a phrase that I've been hearing a lot more lately, and I don't know if it's just because so much of our society has now accepted that video games have gone mainstream, but you said to level up your energy instead of saying to have more energy. So do you mean that to be something slightly different when you say to like level it up and leveling up your life?
That's a good question. I like the phrase level up because oftentimes I feel like we revert back to our level of preparation and our lowest level of preparation. And so for me, the phrase has always been, hey, raise that water, raise that standard, raise that level of preparation so that you don't just have mediocre anymore. You can actually say, okay, my level of standard is now perhaps novice, perhaps advanced, perhaps mastery. And I think that personally for myself, I'm looking to make my level of preparation mastery.
I like that. It's more like it's a firmer guide for yourself and just saying, I'm just kind of feeling out of it. Well, you know, there's not a whole lot you can do with that, right? But if you understand what level you're at, maybe, then you know that you're there, whether you could accept that or be present to it and maybe get out of it, right? So that makes sense. What you're saying, I like that. So something else that been chatting about over our other shows, you know, you have a theme of nurturing and cultivating relationships. And I think often when we deal with coaches in our life, if you're not careful, it can just seem to be like a lot of me, right? And so you are adding in this extra component that seems to be otherwise would have been a missing. Explain this to me. Like, what's the importance of relationships and nurturing relationships and all that?
Oh my goodness, Ross, thank you so much for this question. Honestly, I love what Brene Brown says about this, is that belonging is something that we have, that it's innate inside of us. I think also what I have found through research and what many of humanity has found is that relationships matter and that we're not just here to just be. I think we're here to build and to also learn how to become ourselves. And I think that also does take an element of saying, okay, now how can I give it back? I think that there's also a certain level of which joy comes as we share in an experience together. I played cello for over 25 years now, and I've been a part of many orchestras in my life. And my cello is an incredible instrument. I love it. Yet, I mean, there's also such a variety of sounds and possibilities when you get together with an orchestra. You're a part of something greater than yourself. And I feel like as humanity, as a person of society, of community, of also a beautiful family that I have built for myself with my husband, I can say for a surety that we all have a different sound, a different journey, a different story, a different personality, and yet we create something so much greater than ourselves. And so for me, nurturing and cultivating relationships is foundational. We cannot survive. Like, I swear the biggest challenges that each of us face come because of the drama, pain, or either trauma experiences that we've had with other people. And so learning to cultivate those relationships is really going to not only level down the drama, but also being able to say to myself, okay, I actually have quality, incredible relationships, and it's not quantity, it's quality. And learning how to build those relationships in such a way that not only does it edify you, it strengthens them, it supports them, and both are win-win, I think, is the way that Stephen Covey puts it. I love that. It's that symbiotic growth that can happen with both people.
Stephen Covey, the author of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I believe you're referring to.
That's correct.
When you talk about connection and relationships, can't I do what I need to do by myself? And what's the power in relationships? Why do you feel like it's so foundational?
Wow, what a great question. Okay, so could you just repeat it one more time so I can process it?
Sure. So it's like there's a phrase we hear, no one's an island, right? But at the end of the day, there's also the other phrases of, if you want something done right, do it yourself. But now I'm hearing you say, if without relationships, you will have a big missing in your life. So, I mean, how you call it foundational and everything, how critical is it to really make sure that when you're building, you must include in your plan other people?
Wow. First thought that I have is how I feel about life is, where do you lead from? The question that comes to my head is, if I lead from a place that is about you only,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to keep giving until I'm sucked dry. If I lead from a place of me, then I will suck you dry. Yet if I lead from a place of centeredness, connection, desiring to be not only my best self and my best strength, then I'm also able to see your need, help you, support you wherever you need it, not what I think you need. And then also being able to receive back and say, hey, I'm interested to know if you'd be willing to help me too. And then it's a give and take. There's a different energy there. So actually, this leads into different relationships that I help cultivate in my
Mm-hmm.
practice. And the first is the individual. You, yourself, are your greatest strength and your greatest advocate. You cannot lead from a place of lack. You cannot lead from a place of insecurity. Vulnerability is a good place to start from. Yet you cannot lead from a place of victimhood. You cannot. You cannot lead from a place of which you feel that you have nothing to give. So first you got to start with yourself. So identifying emotions, learning to process emotions, and learning to be resilient with your emotions is extremely important when you're going into the public sphere, because you can overreact, you can underreact, you can even just step out, stonewall. You can be somebody who doesn't even really want to be a part of society. Yet there's something about being able to process what someone is saying and then being able to not take offense from it and being able to work through it and then say, I hear what you're saying, even though I don't agree. There's something so mature about that. So first and foremost, you got to work with yourself about that. Work with your own emotions, sit with yourself enough to know how you're going to process things.
Mm.
Secondly, you need to know how to take care of yourself physically, right? You are a living entity that is going to be in less than 4 seconds judged. The moment that you walk into that room, you're going to have somebody say, oh crap, she's not put together, or wow, so-and-so's really tired, or wow, she's got it all together. Wow, she's looking great. 4 seconds is all it takes for somebody to gauge how you're really doing. And so you got to work on that on your own personal time. How am I doing physical health wise? Am I loving my own body? Am I listening to my body? Am I working through what needs to happen to get the proper sleep, hygiene, care, hormones, and then also nutrition levels? Are you really taking care of yourself? Beauty is built from the inside out. And I firmly believe that health shows. And so, you got to work on that on your own time. You got to learn how to work with you first. Because going out into the public sphere, yeah, you may feel insecure, yet take that into consideration. Say, hey, I'm a work in progress and it's going to be okay, even if you're not where you want to be. And then kind of embrace that vulnerability of it, of walking in and say, yeah, I am tired today. Yeah, I am feeling a little bit sick or tired or something. And then just say it and then say, yeah, let's move on. Let's keep going. We don't have to make me the focus today. I got this. I got my life. No matter where it's at, I'm going to embrace it.
Now, at the risk of sounding maybe a bit metaphysical, you had talked about give and take, give and receive, but if it's only one way, one side's getting drained. When two people are in a dynamic that is an interchange of whatever thoughts, ideas, and efforts and stuff, is there something different there that sort of prevents the depletion? Like, what would have been your experience when you see people getting together in groups or really working with each other? Are people exhausted or are people fired up?
In what way? At work or?
So when you're just dealing with people, like, and I think that it's pretty easy for us to wrap our head around if you're on a one-way relationship, right? Or as my mom used to say, if you're only getting along on someone else's terms, you're not really getting along, right? And so that,
Right.
and you were very clear
Yes.
about that, right? Like if it's one way, someone's getting drained out. But when you're in a relationship with people that is interconnected, I'm just kind of wondering, that's like I say, the metaphysical part. Do you find as you're working with people and everything else that far from everybody being drained, that everyone almost seems to be creating like a positive feedback loop and getting everybody fired up? Why work with other
Yeah,
people?
I do think it's contagious. I do think that when someone brings respect into the conversation of, like, even if we don't agree, I'm right here for you. I'm listening. I'm actively reflecting back what you're saying. I'm curious. I'm engaging. There's something that is so magical there. There's a synergy that naturally happens. I love this book. It's called The Lost Art of a Conversation. I think his last name is McBem. He said that conversation is an adventure. And it
Mm,
is something that we have to be willing. It's vulnerable. We don't know what's going to happen on this adventure. And he also shares that there are different aspects of a conversation of which air is changed in order to produce the conversation. And so we're getting each other's energy, and not only the wind that we're producing through our mouths and our conversation, yet also through the body language, the energy that we're producing. And I firmly believe that once we understand the way of which we communicate and the way that we're able to process communication as it comes to us, I think that we're starting to understand that there's a synergy that can be found. Like, I don't know about you, I've met people who instantly I connect with, where I'm just like, oh my goodness, we could be like soul sisters or bosom friends or whatever you want to call it. And it's just like we match. Like, there's something about the way we communicate that it's just like, I get you, right?
for
And
sure.
then there's also people you don't. And you're like, well, why is that so different? And you're like, well, they're coming at the world differently. And so being willing to be curious about how people are coming at the world or seeing the world, and even if they're short sentenced, you can be like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And you kind of mirror that back, but you still are yourself. There's something so powerful about somebody who is mature enough to know who they are and then to say, I see you, want to talk.
So we're talking about the ends and all the good values of doing this. So now how about the start, right? Like what's a good way for people to sort of begin this journey, right? Like how do people get started in cultivating relationships, putting themselves out there?
I knew you were going to ask me this question because don't we all want to know where to start? How can I begin today to work on these relationships? First and foremost, learn how to sit with yourself. Start a practice either in the morning or the evening where you process your life. I personally love the end of the day. I love being able to process my day, work through what went wrong, what went right. How could I have done that differently? To not shame yourself. Don't say, wow, Kaitlyn, you could have totally done that better. You could say, how could I have done that better? And then phrase it into a question of now you can problem solve it. What could I have done better is a really good question. The moment you ask the what question, you step into what's possible.
Mm.
So, and then secondly, what I would highly suggest, stop talking. I know I'm a big talker, so this is a hard one for me. I learned this when I went to Uruguay and I lived there for over 2 years. And I was trying so hard to learn the Spanish language, and I'm a talker. So me, I want to talk to the people. I want to be with the people. It took me 9 months to really get the language down. And yet I remember those 9 months being some of the hardest ones because you had to learn how to listen.
Mm.
So that is the number one thing. Learn how to listen. And if you see yourself wandering, because we all start like, woo, over here, somewhere else. Oh, what's that spaghetti sauce my mom makes? Whatever you're thinking about, stop thinking about it and focus on their mouth, focus on their words, repeat it in your brain. Start exercising that muscle, because honestly, listening is the number one key to not only see how people are doing, what matters most to them, and how they're going to actually respond to the things that matter most to you too. Listening is like 100% where conversations start. So slow down, listen, and then start learning how to speak in a way that's going to represent yourself. So that's like the third step. Yet first and foremost, learn how to process your life. Second, learn how to listen. And third, figure out what words are really going to bring power to your life and that are going to represent you no matter who's listening around the room.
Now, when you say what words that bring power, are these words coming out of other people's mouths in essence that you want to jump on? Or are you talking about the words that are in your own mind to make sure that you're staying centered to who you are?
Yeah, affirmations, I think, have a key to that. Yet I honestly believe that when you say the word, I'm so sorry that I was late, there's something hard in that because you're like, man, I'm a crappy person. But the moment that you say, thank you so much for waiting for me, there is
Mm.
such a difference. So learning to change those language in your head, those words of, oh, I just messed up. Sorry, I'm late, and you start getting down on yourself. But instead, you could walk into the room, that you were late, say, thank you for waiting for me. I appreciate it. Let's get going, or thank you for being patient with me as I've been late, and still acknowledging that you have been lacking in some way, yet don't say sorry for it. Change that language. I mean, there are certain situations where you do need to say sorry, and learning to say sorry is actually a beautiful art. So this was just an example of changing those words so that you are now saying, okay, I'm going to empower myself. Don't say but, say yet, or try to change those different phrases because there are weight in each of those words. So learning how those words resonate inside of you and also are going to change the conversation.
You know, we are putting ourselves out there, right? And so then we start meeting all of these people. When you start bringing people in your life, you're bringing in stuff. And sometimes, the old life's like a box of chocolates, right? Like, how do we start defining the boundaries, or do we set up boundaries in the beginning? How do we do that so we just don't find ourselves having taking on a bunch of emotional packing mules into our life or something, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Can we just say a hallelujah to that question? Because don't we all struggle with that? I swear that's like my biggest challenge in life that I have had to really work through is how do you take on emotional baggage? How do you not? When do you say yes to somebody and when do you say no? Like, how do you say no? This is a practice that I have worked on now for 6 years and I'm still trying to hone it. And yeah, I feel way better than I did 6 years ago. So something that is really important with boundaries is learning how to identify what is going on, like what is really going on. So this is important to understand. What do you want to see come out of this? When you feel triggered or when you feel taken advantage of, or when you feel like something is off, what is that feeling? Like, what is at the root of that? Is that something you personally need to work on? Or is that something that you need to actually talk to the person about? So you got to talk about your feelings, your attitudes, your choices, your values, your limitations, your talents, your thoughts, your desire, and also what you love in life. You got to really understand where you're coming from when you're setting a boundary. And then sometimes you don't even need to say, I'm going to set a boundary with you. Sometimes you just need to say, hey, I recognize that this has happened and I'm interested in resolving it. Can we talk about it? Do you have time right now? I love this. One of my friends emulated this for me. She said, hey, I have something I want to talk to you about. Can I have a minute of your time? And then what happened was she said what happened. She said, "Hey, you hurt my feelings right here over
Mm.
this thing. And I feel like you took this emotion that I shared with you and you turned it back into my face and it hurt." And then she said to me, "Hey, can we try this instead? Are you willing to do that with me?" And I think that there was something so powerful about not only her courage, yet also her willingness to see me for the person that I am and that I wasn't intentionally trying to hurt her. Yet also she was willing to say, "I need something different. And I need to know if you're going to be willing to give that to me," in the sense of like good, kind, and compassionate Kaitlyn that I know, right? And so, first dig deep, find the roots of what's really going on, and then begin from a foundation of love. My friend loved me enough to tell me. And honestly, sometimes telling people the hard things is actually really, it's loving. I'm so grateful because now we have a really good relationship. We can talk about just about anything because we know we'll be honest with each other. And then share it with clarity. Don't mess around. Like, I love that she was clear and to the point. She wasn't like, "Well, I have something I kind of want to talk to you about, and I don't know if I can really talk to you about it. Yeah, can you just listen for a minute?" She wasn't like that. She said, "Hey, I have something really important. Let's talk about it." You know? So boundaries come in all different ways. And I think that we often say, "Oh, they're toxic. X them out of your life." Yet, honestly, learning how they're toxic and how you can maybe say, "Hey, let's tweak it a little bit here." Like some people, you got to learn how to take in doses. You can't just say, "Come on over whenever you want." Say, "Hey, let's meet at a public place, at a coffee shop or something, and just sit and talk for maybe 2 hours once a month." And then they feel validated. You feel like, "Okay, that was good. I can prep myself for that meeting." And then it doesn't feel like they're just going to pop on in and say, "Hey, I'm going to encroach upon your space." And also, I think asking yourself, do I do that to people? Because honestly, if we can help ourselves the most, we see the best progress.
You're hitting on a lot of stuff. You start talking about the lost art of a conversation. I think I wouldn't be surprised if some of what you're mentioning is maybe referenced in the book, right? So as you're trying to set boundaries, sometimes we might not even know what they are, right? And I like something, if I can say back some of the things that you were saying. This is something I don't hear said very often. It's fascinating always. I'm talking to Kaitlyn Andrews, life coach for women at the artofwomanliness.com. And so, in terms of saying sorry, sometimes depending on an apology, like almost an art to an apology, right? Like, what's the point? And she brought in a way to deal with it and move forward and build something out of it, right? Um, and I think that maybe that's something like for me, thank you for just, sharing this, that I'll look forward with that too. I tell my children, the thing you should always want to feel truly sorry for is making somebody else feel bad. Like, why would you ever want to make another person actually feel bad, you know? But often we don't know exactly how it happens, or people are so enraged, around it. And so this is a little bit of a preamble. So somebody wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on having a sort of grace or dealing with offering an apology or receiving an apology? Like, what would you say would be your advice to get the most out of that situation?
Oh my goodness. I have been in that situation. I have been on the receiving end and I've also been on the giving end of that hostility. I remember distinctly this one experience where I was really struggling with this girl. We were roommates and holy cow, we went at each other so hard. And I just was so furious and I was angry all the time. And I remember writing my grandpa, and he said something that changed my life. He said to me, "Kaitlyn, the first to forgive is the strongest. It doesn't mean that they're right and you're wrong. It means that they matter more than whatever is going on." And he said, "Forgiveness is a balm that is willing, and it does give grace. It does make up because aren't we all imperfect?" Yeah, I definitely know for myself that if you learn how to forgive, not only yourself and others, you're going to be able to find that those heated conversations turn into much, so to speak. Like, it goes into the other person's court. You're banging that ball back and forth, but yet honestly, the moment that you forgive, you refuse to pick up that ball again. And you say, you know what? I know that we have our differences, yet I'm so sorry that I hurt you. I'm sorry that you feel hurt, and just acknowledging how they feel and saying, that was not my intention and I love you. Let's just go on with whatever we can, however we can. And so I think forgiveness has such a huge play. Also, I really do believe that if you pray, or if you have some experiences in your life that you can draw back upon and say, okay, how did I handle this earlier in life? Or how can I handle this, God, or whoever you pray to? He will guide you and he'll help you know how to reach that person. And even sometimes he may ask you to walk away and be willing to say, you know what, this isn't something I can touch. I can't heal this. This isn't my responsibility. And being humble enough to say, okay, it's okay.
We started out our conversation today with your 7-day, love myself challenge. And now here we are, just a few minutes left in our show. It always seems like it goes by in a blink, Kaitlyn, talking about forgiveness. So 2 questions for you. In your experience, have you ever known somebody to be truly regretful for having offered forgiveness? And B, how much of a start, as we look to ourselves, because we've been talking about other people, to forgive ourselves? What does that look like and really mean?
I think that forgiveness, no one ever regrets it. I know I haven't. And then secondly, if you're looking to start for yourself somewhere, I honestly do believe that walking up to everything in your life and taking ownership of it exactly where it's at, and then saying to yourself, today is the only day I have. I mean, I really can't change tomorrow, and I can't change yesterday. So acknowledge that life hasn't really been where you want it, and then let it go. Learn to let it go, because if you forgive yourself for who you've been, then you can actually really start today to be who you want to be right now. And I don't think that holding yourself hostage is the answer you're looking for. And yes, there's going to be people who continually come back in and say, well, you should have, could have, would have. And yet you got to say, well, today I'm a different person and I'm ready to be here for whatever you need. Or, hey, let's try to problem solve it going forward now, because that's the kind of person I'm going to be. So
I just thought I'd let that breathe for a second. It is, whew. I never expect our conversations to get so deep, and then they just always do anyway. Kaitlyn Andrews, it is amazing to talk with you as always. Any final thoughts? Tell everybody again where they can find you.
Oh, yes. Hello, I'm Kaitlyn Andrews, and you can find me at theartofwomanliness.com, and you can email me at hello@theartofwomanliness.com, and I will respond directly. So if you're interested in learning more, or if you have a story to share, or the person that you desire to be is ready and willing, and you have those dreams inside of you, I am so ready to work with you.
Kaitlyn,
have a wonderful day.
Yes, thank you very much. I am Ross Morasso, and thank you all for tuning in today. Until next time.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.